Hello, welcome. It's me, Neil, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my new book. So keep them peeled and let's get into it. So let's whiz over to here. So today I'm going to talk about part one, which is the foundations of IT contracting. And the book will be available soon, 24th of July. So let's get into it. The introduction to contracting. The main thing about contracting is the market. The current job market is always moving. Whenever you say current job market, are you talking about how many jobs there are, how many people there are looking for jobs, the supply and the demand. And this has a big impact on life as a contractor because it can affect how quickly you can replace a current role, if you've got any gaps in your contracts, how many contracts there are, whether you have a choice or not for the next one, and maybe even your rate. But contracting does give you the huge advantage of rapid technological advancements. Because the market is always moving, it's looking for that next new thing. AI, artificial intelligence. To stop myself and saying something else in. Artificial intelligence is really all the rage at the moment, and has been for about the last 2 years or so. It's a bit like Kubernetes was before that. And so I'm expecting any time now there's going to be a new buzzword that's approaching the market, because it's always technological, it's always advancing, and it's about time we're onto the new subject, right? We're also talking about the evolving needs of the clients and their expectations. So as these new technologies appear, it will gradually filter out into the clients, and they will seek people that have evidence of experience in those technologies. And as a contractor, because we're working on different projects, and because we're in the thick of it, sometimes on the bleeding edge, we get a better demonstration that we have that experience and that knowledge, so we can help the customers. And of course, one of the bigger advantages of being a contractor is the flexibility and the autonomy. As an expert, as a leader in your field, you're expected to know what you're doing and answer questions. People come to me and they say, Neil, what's your opinion about artificial intelligence? What's your opinion about fraud in the financial sector? What's your intelligent opinion about Kubernetes? And so having the contractor and the expert role gives me a certain level of autonomy about what I'm doing. What am I going to investigate next? What am I going to look at? And how can I guide the next customers? It also gives me flexibility. I don't necessarily need to do 5 days a week. I could do 7 days a week. Joking. I could also do 4 days a week. In fact, one of my contractor colleagues is doing just that. He's recently had a change in his family, new babies, and therefore it's an important time. He wants to take that time in order to spend it with his new family, rather than earning the big bucks, which is the other major advantage. There's a potential for higher earnings. Now, as I said at the beginning, this is driven somewhat by the market, but also by your skills. And when the demand for those skills matches what you have, then there's a match and a win-win for anybody that wants to get access to those new skills. And that involves talking to you, and for you accepting their higher offer. And also bundled in with this, as I've mentioned throughout this thread, exposure to diverse projects and technologies allows us to keep fresh, allows us to keep moving forward, allows us to stay up with the technology, and also our skills and expertise just grow with that. But there are some downsides to contracting, not gonna lie. Job security is a double-edged sword. Now, in most contracts that I work with, the risk of losing the contract or losing my job identical. In a permanent role, I had 30 days notice. In a contract, I have 30 days notice. What's the difference? If the project stops, then my contract stops. Whereas if you're in a permanent role, they might take a slightly longer view on if the project stops and move on to a different project. And there's less paperwork, involved in that, I suppose. But that means you can manage the customer and their relationship and their expectations of you. Are you going to be available after the project ends? Are you available for different projects? Let them know where your expertise lies, and you'll never be out of work, because if you've got a good relationship with a customer, they will want to work with you again. And of course, the softer side of things is your personal and professional goals. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time, both personally? Do you want a bigger house and a family? Or professionally, do you want to move into artificial intelligence and data? Or do you want to move more towards infrastructure? You've got a little bit more direction to play with, depending on what your goals are. And setting your goals is certainly one of the first steps, which is why I bring it up in part 1. Moving on to the second chapter in the book, though, is setting up your limited company. Now, I go into detail about why a limited company is required, or even the preferred choice, but the biggest challenge that you're going to have when you're first starting out is naming things. Naming things is hard. What are you going to choose for your company name? There's some guidance. I'll let you read it. But also, a limited company is only one of a legal structure that you could have for your business. There's partnerships, there's limited liability partnerships, there's sole trader, and there's all sorts of things. And each one of these has advantages and disadvantages, as you expect, because I'm a consultant. The answer is it depends. But I'm going to give you a straight answer. If you're IT contractor, you want to be a limited company. And I'll explain why in the book. Once you've got your limited company set up, of course, you'll need a business bank account. You'll probably want to be VAT registered. There is a threshold where if your turnover of your company is bigger than this number, I think it's about 90,000. But the government might change it. They probably will. And if your turnover is above that number, then you have to be VAT registered. That means you have to charge VAT on various bits and bobs. You can also claim VAT on stuff. But how to register and the benefits and things, I also go into detail. So then, because you've got a company, there's a certain level of financial management that needs to be done. It's fairly straightforward once you know what the guardrails are. You can have contract models based on a fixed price contract. I'm going to do this thing for you. It's going to take 3 months. You're going to pay me this much money. More often, however, most contracts that I've seen are time and materials. That means that we're going to pay your invoices based on how much time you spent and how much material you've spent. Now, materials is an odd word here, but it can mean stuff like bricks and mortar, but more likely, because you're IT contractor, it's going to talk about software licenses and maybe expenses, travel, that kind of thing. Being a contractor, though, does come with a little bit more complexity. Personal tax. Your personal tax obligations. You are going to be earning money, but also your limited company is earning money. Therefore, you've got the tax on the small company, because in the great scheme of things, it's a small business. And you've got the tax on your personal side of things. And there's a lot of relationship information between how you get paid personally and the impact that has on your personal tax and also your corporation tax. and nothing more so than when we're talking about IR35. They can't talk about contracts and IR and contracting in IT without talking about IR35. So there's a little bit of background information in there as well. And then the final chapter of the section is talking about negotiating and managing contracts. What a contract is, what it's made up of, what you should review, examples of the statement of work, and how that should be phrased, particularly if you're talking about IR35 as well. And negotiation strategies. How can you negotiate what you want, be it time off or higher rate, or maybe something else. And once you're in the contract, you then need to manage it. You need to manage it from the point of view that you're delivering what you promised to deliver. And if the customer has any disputes, or worse still, they want to change what you're actually doing, how do you go ahead and handle that sort of thing? So this is all set out in my book, which is available on the 24th of July, and gives you those first steps into how to become a contractor. If you want some more guidance on how to become a contractor, you can head on over to our quiz. It'll ask you some questions about what you already know, and then we can identify those gaps for you. Those gaps can then be addressed by either talking to me, looking through the book, or maybe a mixture of two, and I can help you through any gaps you have. So thanks, and I'll see you soon.